sitting here with my Mackenzie Marr. This is an awesome 12-string guitar. It just has all full sound. I have it plugged in right now. I can't even hear over myself, but it's plugged in with a wireless going out to the Bose. This is a wireless adapter that comes with the Bose. Actually, you have to buy it separate, but it's meant to link your guitar in, as you can see, and it works awesome. It works really, really well. And so I have it linked in today, but I wasn't going to so much go over, anything about playing the guitar as much as taking care of your guitar. That's what I wanted to talk to you about today, because I got to thinking about all the different ways that you can damage your guitar. They're endless. And so I'm going to give you a few that I've written down here. And then maybe you know of some too, or things that have happened to you that you can share. Because we put a lot of money into these things. We invest into our instrument, and it really helps to take care of them. And we all have some that we take a lot of risks with. We just feel like, okay, I'm just going to leave that right here, and anytime I want to pick it up. And that's fine, but there's some that you don't want to be doing that with, that you do want to take care of them. So let's just kind of go through some of the things that you can do that will wreck your guitar. All right, and anyone can do this too. I don't care how experienced you are. I've heard all kinds of things that happen to guitars. In fact, I think Tommy Emmanuel, I don't know if he ran over his guitar. Something happened where his one of his early, I think it was one of his first guitars, got run over. It was rebuilt by Maton Guitars. But anyways, I don't know exactly how that came across, but it can happen to anybody. So the first thing I think about when I think about protecting the guitar is, avoiding any kind of drastic changes. So like if you're taking a guitar someplace and especially if you're playing out somewhere, you have to transport it in your car. So that means if you stop and go into a restaurant and eat, that guitar is going to be exposed to temperatures in the summertime that might not be good for the guitar. So you have to kind of think about that. Think about where your guitar is stored at when you're traveling with it. If it's in the trunk, you don't want to forget it, especially if you live in areas that their temperatures go up over 100, even less. I mean, think about it. You don't want to leave your child in the car, and it doesn't take much for the car to heat up inside, and it can get hotter than it is outside. So that heat can actually wreck your guitar. I've heard people say that they saw it separate. It would get so hot that the glues started letting go and the guitars just kind of fell apart. So yeah, heat is a biggie, and leaving it in your guitar, or any extreme heat, actually getting it super cold too is not the best thing for it. Fluctuating back and forth between cold and hot. I've heard them say that if you buy a guitar and it gets shipped to you, to wait 24 hours to take it out of the box. I have to admit, I've never done that. When the guitar shows up, I'm so excited to see it. I can't stand it. But I've heard some people have that kind of patience. And they actually do that. Leaving the guitar in the car. Extremes, especially, you can warp your guitar. Warp your neck, warp your body of the guitar, warp the top. Guitars are allowed to dry out. You can see it, that you can actually, it'll actually kind of warp on the top. And you'll never be able to get it into tune right, and it'll start buzzing and it cause all kinds of problems. So environmental factors are a big deal. In fact, you want to keep your guitar humidified. So if you've got something you're keeping in the case, I think now they've got they're using these packs that maintain the humidity between 45 and 55. It'll go either way. They're the same packs they use for cigars. And so if you go online, you can find those. And then if it's just a matter of it just being dry all everywhere, and that, you can use, there's many humidifiers out there. I've been known to take a sponge and wet it with water and don't let it dripping wet. No, just damp. And then what I do is I take an old container that had maybe tomatoes in it, from what something I got from the store. It's got holes in it. Put that sponge in it, stick it in the case. I mean, I don't know how well that works, but hey, it put moisture in the case. So that's that. If you don't have a humidifier, you can kind of figure out ways to make up your own. So yeah, humidifying your guitar, keeping it humidified. Over humidified is not good either. So it can go either way. And they do have devices out there to help with this. Environmental factors. So that's number one thing that can happen that you can wreck your guitar with. After all, they are wood. Unless you have carbon fiber guitars, then they say you can paddle your boat with them. I don't know how true that is. And I'm not going to test it out with mine. So, okay, so the next thing that comes to mind is cleaning your guitar. And you can actually do some things to your guitar thinking you're cleaning them, and you can actually wreck the finish. Like, for instance, using Pledge spray. Pledge has silicone in it. And I've heard people say, "Oh, I use that. That's the cheapest way. That's the best way." But the thing is that silicone, it gets caught in the pores of your guitar, and you can't get it out once it's in there. That's what I understand. It may look good when you get through, but you're actually could be damaging the finish, and it's not something that can be undone. So I would stay away from Pledge. Get something that you can clean your guitar with. For instance, I like to use, and I'm not sponsoring, I'm just showing you. I don't know why I picked this. Maybe it's the name. I've been using it for a long, long time now, years. It's called Lizard Spit. And it's a great guitar polish. Just put a little on your cloth and then clean your guitar off in between when you're doing string change. I've never had a problem with it. It's a really nice cleaner for the guitar. And it protects the finish as well. So you've got Lizard Spit for guitars that have a satin finish, because that's a little different. Like this guitar here has got a high gloss finish. I don't have one with a satin finish here, but those guitars that have that they're not, they're kind of a soft feel to them. Taylor actually has a satin finish guitar cleaner. So I use that on guitars that have that type of finish. And then also, cleaning your fretboard. You don't have to, condition your fretboard every time you change your strings. Maybe every 4 or 5 months, get a good conditioner. Some people use lemon oil, although I would warn you, like if you have like a maple neck of some sort, lemon oil is not a good choice because it can stain it. And plus, I know there's different ways, you can buy it. Lemon oil comes, well, anyways, I don't know. I don't use lemon oil, but I know a lot of luthiers really, really like it. So, yeah, it's a choice. But I usually get a fretboard cleaner, conditioner. This one here happens to be by Taylor. I've used Dunlop's. They're kind of nice. It actually comes with a really nice application sponge right here. So it makes it nice to lay it out on your top. Usually I'll just put that on there, and then let it sit for like 4 or 5 minutes and then wipe it off really well. And just do that. So you want to keep from checking happening to your fingerboard. The other thing is make sure your fingerboard is actually wood before you do that. I think it wasn't too long ago I ran in a situation, it looked like wood. I thought it was wood, and it was actually some kind of a composite. And so what happened was it just kind of stayed on top, and it was a mess. I mean, I had to clean it off and clean it off and clean it off. I finally got it off of there. So make sure it's wood, put it on, then wipe it off. And it'll just keep that wood really nice so that it doesn't check on you. You don't want to do it too often, but doing it once in a while is really good. I guess evidently, like the oils and stuff, sometimes can get down underneath these frets, and they get loose from it if you overdo it. That's what I've heard. I've never seen that happen, but that's what I heard. Okay, so yeah, so cleaning it, getting a good product, and then also the cloth you use. I usually get a microfiber type cloth. It's nice and soft, and you're not going to have a problem with scratching the finish with something that's too rough. This would work really well. Okay, so yeah. Now that kind of well, it brings me to the next thing is protecting your guitar from impact, things that might break it. When I'm changing the strings, you'll notice I usually put mine in a like a little vise up here so that it won't go anywhere. It's stable, but I also take and I'll usually cover up down here with a cloth of some sort to make sure nothing falls on this. When you're working here with all the pins and using pin things to pull them out, I don't want anything to scratch this top. So I'm usually very careful about that, when I'm doing that. So yeah, you don't want things falling on your guitar, and that brings up a really good one. And I've had this happen to me. You got one of those hard shell cases, the case is open, and you're putting your guitar in it, and for some reason the case decides to shut while you're putting it in, and so the little latch comes down and hits your guitar top and dents it. It's like. And I've had it happen, so I know it can happen. So that's one thing you want to watch for. Be careful not to drop your guitar, obviously. You don't want to put too much excessive force on this neck. If you're transporting a guitar, if you're shipping it someplace, everything's about protecting this neck and the headstock. You want to make sure, and of course the body should be covered too in a case with bubble wrap around it and everything. But you don't want to jar this a whole lot. So from any kind of impact, that includes dropping it or putting it in places that it might drop from. And I've had that happen to me. I had one, it was many years ago, on my first Martin guitar. I loved that guitar. It was a D1. I finally could afford to buy a really decent guitar, and it's probably one of the first really nice guitars I ever bought. And I know it's not super expensive, but it was a D1. It was solid wood, and it was mahogany Martin. It sounded wonderful, played beautifully, and I didn't have a good case for it. At the time, I don't think I could really afford one, but I had a bag in a bag, but the bag had zero padding whatsoever. It was just like one of those little sleeves. It might have had a little bit. And I was going, I think, to a church service or something with it. And when I got home, it was in the back of my car. I think it was a Honda CR-V or something, I don't know. But it had one of those hatchbacks. And when I opened it up, it rolled out onto the ground. And because I didn't have it secured well. And it hit here, and it just crumbled all this. It glued back together, and it's still being played today. Still have it. Actually, I gave it to someone, but it's still being played, and it's still a great guitar. But it's a great way to wreck your guitars, putting it in places, not thinking about how secure that is. So there's another one: physical impact, protecting your guitar from falls. And I guess that kind of brings up another thing is using a proper guitar stand when you go someplace. There's different types. Some are better than others. And so if you take one that could easily be knocked over, you need to be aware of that, where you put it, who's walking around it, how much traffic around it, because they could easily knock it over. Nobody wants to break somebody else's guitar. That would be a nightmare. But it can happen. So you have to be careful of what you're setting your guitar on. So physical impact, dropping it, not storing it right, not putting it on a proper holder of some sort. I have one here. Well, actually, this one's missing one of the sleeves on the protector. But this one, you can at least set it on here, and you've got this to lock it in place so it's not going to easily fall out. The thing on these is it has that little fork underneath. That thing rocks back and forth, and so if you don't have that set just right, that can cause the guitar to fall as well. So pay attention to the devices you're using. I use a lot of wall hangers, and that kind of brings up another thing about the wall hangers, and also these. Your guitar, if you leave them on those things for a long period of time, if those are like plastic sleeves that they're setting against, some guitar finishes will react when it's sitting against that. I know this for a fact because I could show you a guitar, not this one here. I've since changed my ways, so it won't happen. But this one is a handmade guitar by Tony Yamamoto. It's a beautiful instrument, and so if you look, I don't know if you can see it, but right here where this was hanging on a wall hanger, it's like this finish, which is a nitro finish. It actually reacted to the plastic, and it just sort of melted there. You can't. I mean, I see it, and I know it's there. Nobody else is going to see it that much. It's not that big of a deal, but it is to me when you spend a lot of money on a gorgeous Cocobolo guitar with 4 bevels and all the bells and whistles. And this is a 12 fret. It's an absolutely gorgeous instrument. So yeah, using the right kind of devices, but also paying attention that if they're going to be in there for any period of time, make sure it's not against the like plastic stuff. What I did was they actually sell these. They're like little socks, and they'll just fit. This one's broken. I lost that little sleeve, but it's a sock that's made like that sheep stuff, and it just it's like the finger of a glove. And I did that too. Some of them I actually cut gloves up and just took the fingers and put them on there, and it took care of the problem. Of course, if we have an earthquake, I haven't really addressed that problem in terms of how well they're secured. But that's a very big possibility here in California. You haven't lived till you've been through an earthquake. Oh my goodness. I've got down here string maintenance because, changing the strings periodically is a good idea because it gives you a chance to look at your guitar, clean your guitar, whatever's needed at that time. Change out the batteries and just do the things that need to be done to keep that guitar nice. But also I've heard people say that just taking the tension off the strings and changing them out is good for the neck. So I'm not sure if that short of a time, if it makes a big difference. Maybe it does, but they say regularly changing and not storing your guitar with the full tension of the strings for years on years. You want, if that's going to happen, if that guitar is going to go into storage, loosen those strings. If you're going to be taking it in and out, playing it, I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about storing it for long periods of time. Make sure you leave a little tension, but just reduce it. That's the way I do it. And somebody else might say take the tension off of it altogether. I'm not sure which way. Maybe someone out there has got some insight on that. Okay, so you can also get overly aggressive playing. So you want to, consider that. People, sometimes you'll see strum from picks. They're overdoing it and they end up, wearing holes in their guitar or scratching here. You can always get pick guards. In fact, they have pick guards that are removable. They're like a saran wrap, kind of. They're thick, and they'll just stick on there, and you can use it while you're playing. And then what I would do is, again, don't store it with it on there, because you could end up having the finish change colors, and it won't happen under there. If something started lightening up, you'll see the outline of that little device you're using to protect the top. But nevertheless, they do sell them. I think the first place I saw them was with Taylor Guitars sold them. They're disposable, or I guess, yeah, they are disposable, but you can use them over and over again. And they're just little pick guards that'll just, when you stick them on there, they just stick like a static electricity kind of stick. And then you just pull them off. and it's nice. It'll keep your guitar, especially if you're going to be doing some aggressive picking. So so your playing technique, also wearing the clothes you wear, to think about, especially when you walk into a guitar store. If you're wearing a jacket that's got, zippers and buttons and metal snaps and stuff, pay attention to that. You don't want to wreck the back of that guitar. And belt buckles, of course, we always hear about the belt buckle rash. So, pay attention to the clothing you're wearing and how it's, and if it's coming in contact with a guitar, because it can damage your finish and damage your guitar. So, playing techniques, your clothing, the storage, storing your guitar with Capo on it is not a good idea. I have a Capo on this one right now, but if I were to put this in a case, it might do all right, because it has really nice, this one's got nice padding on it, but I've seen them dent the back of the neck, especially on a mahogany neck. So you want to be extremely careful with that. Your guitar strap, if you don't have a strap that's properly fitted to your guitar, especially down here, it can come loose on you and you can drop the guitar. So you want to make sure that when you put the strap on, it's secure. They sell little things like, they're not expensive. I don't have one here, but they're plastic like this. They're round. I think Dunlap makes them, and you just slide them on there over the over where you have the strap, and it'll keep that strap from coming off. So, and there's also strap locks. There's all kinds of things you can get. But if you have a guitar and you're putting a strap on and you can see that it's not real secure, you need to put something there to make sure you don't drop the guitar because it falls off of the strap. This particular guitar has a strap button. It's the way the manufacturer made it. I'm not sure why. They may have a reason, and for that reason, I'm not going to do this, but normally I would want one right here, because this one here, when I stand up, it kind of goes forward a little bit. Or if I'm just holding it and I want to strap on it, it doesn't hold it in place like it does if it's coming up from here. So I don't like it on the heel. That's my preference. I think it could fall off easy because it's coming forward like this. So it's just something, I know Mackenzie Marr, I've meant to write them and ask them if there's a reason why they did that. And, is there something in the neck that if I put one here, would I run into anything that would ruin the neck? Because that's one thing you want to pay attention when you alter a guitar. Know what you're doing. Don't just go headstrong in it. Find out, Usually, most of the time, you can drill, and there's certain ways you do it with wax, and you want to make sure you have everything just right to do it and go in at the right angle. But have somebody that knows what they're doing do it, and then so you don't wreck your guitar, because that would be a disaster. So that probably brings up a really good point as well, is that if you don't know how to fix it, ask somebody. Get somebody that does know. Okay, so but putting the strap on so it doesn't fall off is a real biggie. So those are the things that I came up with, and I've been talking for 24 minutes. This is a long time to talk about things that can damage your guitar. And as you can see, it can happen. It can happen. So, and there's so many different ways, and I'm sure there's things that I haven't even thought of. So pay attention to them, and it'll take less risk to do that. Doesn't mean you'll never wreck your guitar or never drop it or never have an accident, because it happens. Get it insured if it's that expensive. So there you go. All right. Well, I'm going to leave it right there. Don't forget to subscribe. I only have 100 to go. I can't believe it. 100. And I have 3 weeks to do it. So anyways, it's my 12. I started doing Guitar Notes and Notions 12 months ago. It was in February that I started it. And so, so once it launched, I set a goal then at that point by February of this year that I'd have 10,000. And I'm 100 away. So if you haven't subscribed, please do so. All right. Well, I hope you have a great day or night wherever you are in this world.